I wonder when people walk in, are people just immediately going to make them go on the dance floor?
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to ask you about your Lyme disease. You were telling me about it. First of all, what was the name of the documentary that you saw?
It's called Under Our Skin.
Okay. And there's a movie called Lyme Life out right now too. So it's kind of weird that there's like two movies dealing with Lyme disease because it's something people think about as like I like if somebody were to tell me people still have Lyme disease, I would have said, oh, I thought they took care of that back in 1983 or something like that. So how did you find out you had it?
Yeah, it's really a really big epidemic disease that is really underlining. No one knows about it. I was sick physically I was sick for over 8 years, and I went to doctor, lots of specialists. They thought I had autoimmune, they thought I had digestive problems, pancreatitis, and finally I was diagnosed actually through a naturopathic doctor that looked at my symptom list, which was 2 pages long.
Sure.
And she looked at it and said, have you ever been tested for Lyme? And I didn't even know what that was, never heard of it.
Right.
And anyway, so I said no, and so she told me, and she tested me. There's only 2 labs in all of the United States to get tested.
Why are there only 2 labs? That seems odd.
Yeah, well, there's this whole political thing going on. This is what the movie's about, Under Our Skin. Basically, 90% of
We're doing an interview here, lady. Just joking. I'm just joking.
90% of medical doctors are really misinformed, miseducated. It's not really their fault, but they know of Lyme, and they know that when you get bitten by a tick, if you usually have a bullseye rash, that's the stereotypical diagnosis, and you have flu symptoms, you go, you get antibiotics for a couple of weeks, and then you're all better. That's what 90% of doctors say. But actually, that's not true. I never had a bullseye rash ever. I've been bitten 4 or 5 times a long time ago when I was 12 and 13.
Was it here on the West Coast or back east?
It was back east in Massachusetts, which, again, Lyme disease was discovered in Connecticut, the town of Lyme, back in the 70s. But it's everywhere now. There's ticks here in San Diego. There's ticks in California.
Is it still probably more common back east than here?
It is. There is definitely more diagnosis of Lyme back east, and I lived there at the time, and now I live out here. But there's definitely ticks here, and there's a lot of people that are diagnosed here. So there's a lot of misinformation and miseducation, and I think people that are ill for a very long time, that are diagnosed with autoimmune or chronic fatigue syndrome, ALS, MS, autism, Alzheimer's, all those things, if you're going to a lot of doctors and you're getting misdiagnosed, or they're not really sure what's going on with you, irritable bowel syndrome, a lot of digestive problems, you might want to check into Lyme disease. You might want to there's only certain doctors that know about Lyme disease, and they're specialists. They're called Lyme literate medical doctors.
Right.
And you have to kind of basically go online and find them by Googling online Lyme literate medical doctors. They're hard to find. There's only one in San Diego.
I saw you dance a couple dances, and you look great. It's no problem on the dance floor.
Yeah. I'm glad that you say that, because there's, most people think I don't look sick. Physically, I don't look sick, but I'm in chronic pain 24/7. I have incredible pain inside my body all the time. And they talk about that in the movie too. Like, some people actually have visual symptoms. A lot of people have neurological on one side of the body where they have twitching and muscle tremors. And then there's others of us that have internal chronic fatigue and physical pain. I'm very fortunate that I still am able to be physically active some days. Some days I'm bedridden.
Right.
It just depends on the day, but I have more, I have other symptoms. So everyone's different. That's the whole thing about, it's really hard to diagnose because there's so many different symptoms. There's like a long laundry list of symptoms, and some people just have depression and they have Lyme disease, and once they cure the Lyme disease or they treat it with antibiotics, then their depression goes
I think
away.
Timothy Hunt's character in Lyme Life, it's more of a depression thing. And back in the 70s and early 80s, when Lyme disease, when we first heard so much about it, was it harder to treat? Like, now, once they know you have it, is it something that it's easier to treat than it was back then, or is it still, because you said something about a waiting list of 180 something people?
Right. There's only one doctor in San Diego, and she's not taking new patients. She's so overwhelmed.
Wow.
And I'm 185 on a waiting list to get in to see her, so I have to go up to Northern California to see a doctor up there that treats it. And treating it is not easy if you get bitten and you go to the doctor right away, which I advise anyone that gets bitten by a tick, whether you have symptoms or not,
might as well.
to go take antibiotics right away. But if you don't, like for me, I didn't do that, and I didn't know I was sick until way later. It's a lot harder because it multiplies in your system, and for me, it's taken over a lot of my organs. It's eating away at my liver.
I wonder if anybody's ever talked about Lyme disease while people are like doing the jitterbug like directly behind us. You're talking about this horrible disease. And what disease do you have, ma'am?
Oh, you name it, I got it. Pick one.